CNN's Jim Acosta has had his White House hard pass, the ID card given to select members of the press to allow easier transit through security, revoked this week after a short fracas during which he refused to surrender a microphone intended for the next press representative. Here's the clip and I'll comment alongside.
I wanted to challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign. In the midterms.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants in
not
this election
no,
to try to keep...
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know?
So first of all, we can see the disingenuousness of the question being asked. Trump is dismissive and rude because the man is giving such a worthless comparison. He asks Trump whether the migrant caravan is an invasion. Trump responds it is in his opinion.
No, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign...
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
But your campaign had an ad showing migrants climbing over walls and so on.
That's true. They weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. Right. These were people. This was an actual, it happened a few days ago. And
they're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's
not
an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President.
This conflation of asylum seekers, illegal immigrants and Trump's policy therein between the two is deliberate, inflammatory and unwarranted, particularly given that the president has already made provision for temporary housing for those seeking asylum and that of the large number of migrants travelling, the odds are that some of them will be unwilling to wait out the process and attempt to enter the country illegally. The president's hard stance laying out clearly that he wants the border enforced is perhaps slightly overkill, saying that the US military will be waiting is somewhat inflammatory, heavily emphasising the use of force, but the rationale behind it is unquestionably sound. The law must be enforced, and he is ensuring that those who are travelling in the crowd are aware of the severe consequences of breaking that law. After finishing with Acosta, Trump signals the move to the next media outlet, and here's where the fun begins.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr.
President, that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question.
This is the moment that the White House calls the laying of hands on a White House intern. Personally, I find this to be overstating the blocking of this young woman in her attempt to do her job. However, I do believe it to be accurate and relevant grounds to suspend his pass. There is an etiquette to be followed in the White House, and Jim Acosta did not follow it. He is there as a courtesy to the media and to aid transparency of government policy, not to argue semantics, and not to accuse, implicitly or otherwise, the president of xenophobia for wanting to enforce borders and discourage illegal crossings. He is also allotted his time and his question. He failed to do his job, which was to ask a meaningful question, and then attempted to take time away from other news outlets. The revocation of his White House access is entirely justified. InfoWars put up a slowed down version of the incident in question, and I'll leave it to you to decide whether or not you think that he assaulted the woman or whether or not he was merely blocking her.
That's
Mr.
enough.
President, I was
enough.
going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am.
That's enough. That's enough. Ask one of the other folks. That's enough. Pardon me, ma'am.
Acosta, notably distressed by the loss of his access, is protesting the move. We'll see how this develops.